Welcome to the collection of the wildest and craziest AITA Reddit stories of all time. From wild betrayals to shocking twists, these tales will leave you questioning who is really in the wrong. Let's dive in together. The first story for this collection is from Nuff Said Now. AITA for make my husband choose between me and his entitled sister who is demanding money for her family trip? Background. My husband and I have been on multiples cruises and have always gone with first adults only and second with only my side of the family, because we like to travel and spend our hard-earned money on enjoying life. We love traveling but haven't gone since COVID and after having our first child. My husband wanted to take his parents on a cruise for the first time. We told the family about it, and everybody has never been on a cruise, no surprise there, and decided that they want to go too. We said sure, let's convene and choose the best time for everybody. We all settled on a trip more than 11 months out. This gives everybody more than enough time to save and get necessary documents to travel. After dozens of meetings that goes mostly nowhere, where I have done all the work planning, coordinating, and being on phone calls for a long period of time, we are all booked. Cruise check, excursion booked, flights check, hotel check, parking and transportation check. Anxiety from them all not reading or paying attention, to having to handhold adults through the entire process. After all the hassle, we are finally 1 month out. Here's where the frustration comes in. The SAIL that was not wanting to go originally, note, everybody but 2 siblings are going, she suddenly decides that her family of 4 are going. The SEL, her husband, and 2 minor kids. Mind, this is the SEL that always does things last minute and shows up late all the time. She has older kids that already booked and are going with too, but she doesn't contact them or any of her own siblings. She blows up my phone day after day about document requirements, cruise fare, flights, hotels, and everything else that the family have already gone over. Tell me why she isn't reading any of the info we have communicated in the cruise chat and is asking me everything all over again? I'm not one to say no, but I will tell people to wait if I'm busy. That has got a job and family of my own to care for. She then, after almost 2 weeks of looking, decides they want to book, asks me to look at prices again, and then, when I confirm, has the audacity to question that I have the wrong cruise. Excuse me? I was the one that found then coordinated our group cruise? Why would I not know this? Then wants me to book her family and that she will reimburse me after. What? I told my husband that I have none of their personal info and do not want to be responsible for her family's travel info. He makes it all out to me not wanting to help his sister out because I don't want them to go. Surly. I've spent more time the last 2 weeks on her stuff when she still hasn't made up best mind and he's done nothing. Yet, I'm the one who doesn't want them to go. I've organized this trip for 20 plus people. And the thanks I got was that I didn't want Sil's family to go. All because he didn't want to tell his sister to book her own freaking trip, enter her family's info, and pay due to not wanting to offend her. On top of all this, turns out Sil's one child didn't even have all the necessary documents to board, so we then have to wait again until I's ready to book. Hello, we are less than a month out. We're going to go through this vicious through again when she's finally ready, with less than enough time to do anything else. I also told my husband that I am not going to be babysitting anybody's kids, nor will I be responsible for them. We told the family that we weren't going to bring our toddler this trip because we wanted time to reconnect for just a few days and be child-free. Also because she is still so young. Knowing my in-laws, they will disregard their children and ignore their kids to go enjoy their vacation. I'm not leaving my child at home just so I can watch others' kids so that they can go have fun. Overall, this is all unfair to me and has given me so much anxiety and frustration. I can't imagine how the trip will actually play out. AITA for letting this cause a disagreement between my husband and I, and for wanting to back out of the trip altogether. OP is not an AH, rather her sister-in-law is an AH for demanding to be included in the family trip and asking OP to pay for her 4 family members. This is totally an entitled behavior. So I would rate OP's SL 2.5, and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from Mountain-Tone-3010. AITA for warning my friend about a creep. This post starts with a Minecraft server that myself, 19F, and my boyfriend, 21M, who I'll call Jake, that started a few months back after some friends from us in-person D&D group said they wanted to give the game a try. The idea was that we would invite friends of our own from other groups to fill the servers, and the Minecraft world would be shared throughout all of us, which was a normal enough suggestion. Well, in the search for more folks to fill the server, I came across an old friend, 24F, who I'll call KK, and I had played plenty of games together in the past, so I thought I'd send an invitation their way, despite knowing they had a bit of a history. Eventually, once things were started, I realized that I may have made a mistake in adding them, and decided to talk to one of the friends from my D&D group who I had invited. Let's call him Ron, 22M. Ron was originally intended to join with several other members from my D&D group, though when the server finally started, the only members were myself, my boyfriend, Kay, and Ron. So with him being the only other male member of the newly formed group besides my boyfriend, and given Kay's history, I took a chance to reach out and privately chat with him. For context, Kay has a boyfriend, one which she's been with for quite some time, but unfortunately, she has a tendency to flirt with other guys. You'd think this is a huge issue, which it is, though when anyone has made an effort to tell her what she is doing is wrong, or even tried to tell her boyfriend, she either cuts them off, or he doesn't believe take them seriously. Knowing Ron was single at the time and actively searching for a date, I decided to step in, which in hindsight did nothing. I let Ron know that Kay was already taken, and that if she were to flirt with him that he should give it no attention and not to reward the behavior, to which he assured me he wouldn't let anything of the sort happen. Believing him was my first mistake. When the two first met, Kay seemed to for once be quiet and kept mostly to herself, though the more they played the closer they got, and I quickly noticed that Ron was actively inviting the behavior I had warned him of prior, building his house in our Minecraft server directly next to hers, mining for her and doing every chore for her, and loudly giggling at all her jokes, just generally giving off all the signs that he was into her. She also was being quite friendly towards him, and while I was never around to see any outright flirting, both me and my boyfriend could tell by the tone they'd use with each other, and the constant giggling and being on the server together at all times, that they definitely were mingling. Eventually, for unrelated reasons, Kay and I had a falling out, one I was not bothered by in the slightest, and was actually quite relieved by, and I thought things would go back to normal afterwards. Things started to fizzle out, and I thought I was finally in the clear. I had even noticed that Ron and Kay were not on Minecraft together in the server as often, which was a relief, though as if out of sheer miserable luck, it happened again. For several weeks, Ron would come to our D&D games and open his conversations with me with OMG Kay and I, or so Kay is doing really well, or Kay is sick, which I awkwardly would give a thumbs up to, as at the time I had nothing against Kay, and saw our falling out as more one-sided from them. Things seemed to ease up as the comments about Kay went from excited quips to Kay still hasn't messaged me back, which I was relieved by once more, as for a second time, I thought it was over, but it still wasn't. Once Kay left Ron's sights, I entered them. It started with subtly pulling me aside from my D&D group during intermissions to look at dice and such around the game shop, but quickly escalated to him pulling me away from the others during breaks to look at dice, buy me items I could not afford, and eventually being too physical for my liking. I had stated before during D&D that I am not one for hugs/physical contact, and just barely allow the head pats I occasionally get as a joke from the DM, and even that's pushing it. Clearly this went over his head though, as several times he had come up to me during sessions, sometimes even when I was standing directly next to my BF, and would creep his hands up under my arms and pull me into very close and uncomfortable hugs from behind. The times it was near my BF, he was sure that it would happen when he was distracted. This was already miserable enough, as he was a close friend to most of our D&D group, and seeing how dramatic he was with the K situation, I knew calling him out even if privately would end hellishly. My case was eased a little when a shop worker from the game store our D&D games were at mentioned to me that he had also been a bit weird with them, which gave me confidence. But the final deal breaker came when Kay finally reached back out. I saw that Kay had reached out, and heard in passing from Ron that Kay had blocked them. To break the ice, I joked to Kay that it was funny that they had blocked Ron, to which they seemed confused and explained that they had done so accidentally during a mental breakdown, and had done so to quite a few people. They told me I could tell him to friend them again, to which I agreed, which is dumb. But at the time, I was quite exhausted, and had only half my focus on the situation at hand. After which I had told Ron that he could refriend Kay. After doing so, he entirely stopped messaging back to Kay again, as I had expected after realizing my mistake. At this point, I realized what a mistake I had made, as I had allowed him to get back in contact with Kay, who has a history of people not caring for her boundaries. As much as I didn't and still don't agree with how Kay acts, I still didn't want her to have to possibly deal with what I had been dealing with. So after a few days, with terrible timing, hours before I had a flight to a week-long vacation, I called Kay. I was lucky enough that she picked up, and her boyfriend was on the background and could hear me. What I was hoping for, as I had tried to message him prior, but he never replied. I was in a rush, packing and making sure my house was ready to be left empty for a while, so I didn't really have a script to work off of. But in essence, what I told them was along the lines of, "Hey, I thought I'd warn you guys about Ron. I know this is a bit out of the blue, but it's been a bit weird the way he's been acting and how infatuated with Kay he is, and I thought I'd let you guys know." Of course, with a lot more murmuring and stammering over myself in between, but the message I had tried to put across was that it was a bit off-putting how frequently he would talk about Kay, even with groups who knew nothing without her, and he didn't treat talking about her like one would with a friend. I thought I had settled it there until her boyfriend said something along the lines of, "What's he going to do? Like, if he comes over here in real life, I'll punch him," which knocked me flat on my back. First off, it made me cringe a little, and second, it felt like neither of the two cared, or were even trying to listen to me, and I quickly realized they probably just didn't care, so I wished them a nice day and went on my flight. Cut to the day after I got home from my trip. Me and my BF are sick. We had our car towed by some jerks, and we finally got the chance to sit down when, out of nowhere, Ron messages him, "We need to talk." To put the talk short, Ron claims that Kay had told him that I had told her he had a thing for her and got upset, telling my boyfriend essentially that I needed to apologize, to which my boyfriend, who was already incredibly exhausted, had no way to respond to. On one hand, he had not been there for my talk with Kay and her boyfriend. On the other, he has been there as well for all the weird things Ron has done to both me and Kay, and said about Kay. Now Ron is incredibly upset with me, which scares me a bit, and I am under the impression Kay hadn't taken any of what I said seriously, and painted whatever I had told her in an even more impossibly bad light. And now, all in all, I look like a bit of a jerk. At this point, I'm not sure what to do, as Kay is, and has been, a lost cause, and Ron, for now, is still a member of my weekly D&D game. AITA? OP is not an AH for warning her friend Kay of Ron's creepy behavior and his tendency to overstep boundaries. She did all this out of concern for her friend. She did nothing wrong. So, I would rate OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. As for Ron, he is an AH for not respecting others' boundaries. So, I would rate him 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from normal_lifeguard 7590. AITA for my reaction on a romantic holiday. I, 27F, met someone, 34M, 3 or so months ago. And from the jump, he pursued and pursued and pursued. Very affectionate, very intentional. Perhaps it's dumbed to not have recognized it was probably loving bombing. Always would hold my hand. Cute nicknames. Apologies when he pushed me away. Anyway, he was away for a month and invited me to go away with him to a foreign country. I thought it's a bit soon for trips, and I'm not so financially capable. But it's winter. I was excited to spend some time in the sun, and more importantly, connect with him. He has shared that his freedom is very important to him, and does not want to lose himself in someone where his interests are not respected. Fair, same. I also understand that is a boundary, so on this trip, he was very clear he wanted to do some water sports. I didn't budget for this. So of course I was like, please absolutely do what you need to do to enjoy yourself. On the first day of the trip when we arrived at the airport, we were both slightly tipsy and we went to pick the car up. For context, I cannot drive. While the attendant is explaining the car, they mention we need to pay an insurance. So, I'm joking with the guy, who even made a joke about something revealing he is gay, and I'm joking around with him saying, "Okay, now that you are making us pay, then show me your favorite spots on the island." Guy is quiet, but I don't really think of it. At the store, we go to buy some food for dinner, and he basically yells at me saying that I was making fun of him and emasculating him in public because I offered to pay the car insurance. I make like way less than him, but I wanted to be clear that I'm not here for his money and wanted to make sure I'm contributing to the trip. Even though prior to the trip, I asked to discuss finances and he said, "Do what you can manage. Don't worry." Now he found a place to go do his water sports. And the second day, he went to test out the gear. On the third, he went for 4 hours, and the same yesterday. I love being social, so I spent this time roaming the city, making friends with other couples at nearby tables and/or was reading my book. Thing is, he somehow found a way to complain about the boat driver and then a lost contact so he couldn't see. Valid reasons, but I realized during this trip, he stopped holding my hand, being affectionate, calling me beautiful like he always did. I asked him if he is not a fan of hand-holding, and he said he doesn't mind, but then yesterday said he didn't like it. So okay. Anyway, we got into a huge fight yesterday. I'm a very poor eater, always have been. From the very beginning, he saw that my relationship with food is very picky and challenged. That's just neurodivergence, and my ADHD medicines don't really help. He has never had an issue with this. I shared that I used to struggle with an eating disorder and sometimes still probably have tendencies. As we are getting ready, I suggest we take a shower together to try to connect with him. But I say, hey, my period started this afternoon. We have had before, and the first time I was not interested because it's very intimate. And it was fine. He was caring. Now we start playing with each other, etc. And suggests to try in the shower. He tells me to get on the floor, and I say I'm not going on the floor, so we stand. He loses his and I just tell him, hey, it's fine. The water is probably just overstimulating. The first time he placed a towel. So I was like, we can do the same. Now we go to the bed and and he seems to start getting turned off and he is like, I think it's the blood. And it is more this time. And I'm like, okay? I can't really be a perfect Barbie who always has a light flow. So it gets on the sheets and I panic because they are white and we are staying at an Airbnb and I want to be respectful. Do I get up and start rinsing the sheets under cold water and he just sits there? I say I feel like, and I would appreciate if he was with me during this. He was like, what do you want me to do? And I'm like, IDK, reassure me, keep me calm. Instead, he just looks so disgusted and sits in silence. So I go to the shower to rinse off and now I'm emotional because I'm dealing rejection, I guess. We go to our reservation and he picks the tapas menu. I'm not kidding, I really tried to eat this meal, and I actually ate quiet. Significant portion, he would always say, like, wow, you really ate more today, etc. In the car, he says that he paid €70 for me to waste food, and I was like, okay, I'll pay for my part. And he just yells. No apologies for the period thing. Just goes on about how he is losing himself, and IDK, honestly. We get to the Airbnb and tells me he is going for a drive and that he regrets coming on this trip. He says we are different, and for him he can eat anything, but he has to keep making accommodations for my eating. And that we are too different, and I'm like, difference isn't bad. The grass is just green where you choose to water it. That was last night. I went for a walk. I can only walk in the nearby town because I don't drive, and this island is quite remote, but I thought I won't wait for him. So I message where I put the key, and he responds with, okay, I'll be back tonight. So 24 hours gone. I'm at the Airbnb now, wondering if I was wrong for coming, if I was wrong to accept him to pay for the trip, if I was AH to shut down at dinner because of the thing. Anyway, our flight back to my winter city is tomorrow, and I'm alone in a foreign country where I don't speak the language. OP is not an AH, rather her boyfriend is an AH for his dismissive and unsupportive behavior. OP's boyfriend is a terrible partner, and breaking up with him is the only way forward for OP. There are red flags everywhere. OP need to run away as soon as possible. So, I would rate OP's boyfriend 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets nothing. Let's now move on to the next story from 5000_hours. AITA for thinking I deserved an explanation for a breakup. I, 22M, was dating this girl, 24F, for just over 6 months. It was the first serious relationship for both of us. We would say, I love you, and things were quite good for a time. She blindsided me one day with a phone call, saying she wanted to take a break. Maybe until her sister's baby was born. Still makes no sense to me. But I think she meant things were a bit hectic at home with her family. She couldn't tell me anything else, and I suggested we at least meet and talk about it, which she agreed and came over. She basically was completely frozen up, not able to give me a word of explanation further. Then she doesn't know why, and she wants to take a break. I basically said, so we are broken up then. And she was only just able to essentially nod. I gave her space for a month thinking she would call. Finally, I reached out asking to talk, and she said we could. She then proceeded to dodge every time I tried to set a time and date to meet up for coffee or just a phone call. She did not answer when I just tried to call her once or twice, thinking we could talk over the phone. No explanation given. I finally asked her if she really wants to meet up to talk to me, and she says she doesn't think she's ready. I really have a lot to get off my chest at this point. I feel like I treated her poorly, and with COVID hitting in the last few months of our relationship, I just felt like I had let things become stale and like we would hang out and have sex a lot. But I didn't put in effort to spend much genuine time with her. Even if she wasn't interested in me anymore, I was not coping well, having got no closure, no explanation, no word at all. I felt like this person I knew just dropped off the face of the planet. We always talked. The fact that she couldn't even answer the phone to talk for 10 minutes hurt and confused me deeply. After all, she said she wanted a break. I'm the one that said break up. Here's where the AITA comes in. At this point, I felt I deserved an explanation. Something. Closure. Why could she not talk to me on the phone, or at this point, even over text? When I attempt to talk serious over text, she ghosted the messages. I told her I was struggling to make sense of this, and if she could please just give me something. Nothing. My mind was racing with speculation. I felt guilt for not being able to tell her my retrospective on our time together. I felt rejected and abandoned. I kept trying to message and kept trying to call. I would wait a month and then try again. She would say yes to meeting up to talk. I would then propose a time, and she would leave it on read. This happened 2 or 3 times after concrete, yes, we can meet for a walk or a coffee. Like 3 months into this on my birthday, she sent me a text message. Happy birthday? Even my closest friends just wrote on my Facebook wall WTF. I persisted to hassle her and even sent her a few videos, cringe, of me basically trying to show her my tone. I'm chill, I just need some closure. Can we please have a chat even just over text? Nothing. She continues to like my Instagram posts, etc. this whole time. I admit I went a little crazy there. Was I wrong to expect her to talk to me? She said she wanted a break. She gave me not one word of explanation for any of this. No, I'm not in love with you. No, it's not you. It's me. Nothing. In retrospective, actions speak much louder than words, and I feel guilty and embarrassed that I persisted to hassle her. But I still think she could have spared me months of pain and embarrassment, with literally a few text messages when I first contacted her after a month. If she just said, I don't love you, stop contacting me, I would have known where I stood, but nope. In retrospective, I still have no idea if she was ultimately confused, she was toying with me, or if she cared for me so little. She paid it all such little attention. Blocked and deleted her on everything years ago so I could be free of going crazy over it. Thoughts? OP is not an AH for demanding clarity for the breakup, but going desperate is a bit off. As for OP's ex, she is an AH for repeatedly ghosting OP and going no contact with him without a proper closure. As for scores, I would rate OP 0, and OP's girlfriend 3.5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from tattooed_goddess1. AITA for having time away from my daughter. I, 26F, would like some advice on the situation I'm in with 27M, whom I've had my daughter, 4 with. Since August, we tried to start out relationship again after 3 years apart. Everything was going well until October. I started with major panic attacks, the kind where you're on the floor crying, shaking, and begging for it to end. Turns out I had an undiagnosed UTI, and I was pregnant. My panic attacks were non-stop for weeks. I couldn't eat, sleep, or drink most of the time due to the changes happening in my body. Constant trips to A&E, which caused friction between me and my partner. He stepped up and watched our daughter when I was going to A&E, which I am thankful for. I was finally admitted onto the maternity ward to where I had a miscarriage. I was in the hospital for 4 days and felt awful about him watching her, so I gave him all my savings to cover as much as I could, as he kept telling me he's struggling. Once I was out, it was like everything was back to normal, but I am not. I struggle with going outside as I panic. I can't sleep in my own bed anymore. I am constantly in a state of being scared. My daughter has suffered witnessing the panic attacks over and over, and being unable to go out as much as we would. And I'll be honest, I have had way less patience. I was still having panic attacks even though the situation was over. I then told my partner I wanted to go to my brother's for a week 3 hours away, as he could not be with me every night to help with the panics. He gave me so much grief and said I was being selfish with our daughter, and how dare I plan without asking him before I up and disappear with our child, to which I explained I'm only doing it to get help. He also used to excuse to not talk about the miscarriage as I had chosen to go to my brother's house. Once I was back, I was ready to talk, and he told me he wasn't going to talk about the situation as it wasn't needed. To which I got very upset, as I suppressed how I was feeling to wait to talk when he was ready. The only time he gave me affection after this was to come on to me, and I accepted it, as it was indeed affection that I needed in any way, shape, or form. I am still mentally struggling, as doctors don't know if I have Crohn's or celiac disease, and are taking forever to test. Back to my partner, I have begged for affection and communication, but he tells me it's not part of his personality, he finds it uncomfortable to do. I said I just wanted to feel wanted. We kept building more and more stress with these arguments, and over my anxiety, which he says I can control when I genuinely can't. I thought he was done with me, as I don't feel loved or wanted. He replies with one-word answers, and I have to push for conversation, to which he says he doesn't like texting either. So I felt I couldn't win. Come to this week, I had spoken to someone on a platform. I'll say I was being flirty, because I can't deny that. He asked me if I had anything to tell him. I denied out of sheer embarrassment, to which he then told me it was all a setup to see if I'd talk to someone else. And how dare I do this to him after all I've put him through lately? I admitted it and apologized, which I know isn't going to fix it, but I felt so alone, and like he was done with me anyway. In not condoning my own behavior, I know I'm very in the wrong. Nothing would have come of it, as I can't even go outside, let alone meet someone in person. We agreed to then work on it. Come to this Sunday, all I asked in the morning was, "What time are you getting our daughter?" Which he replied with, "I don't need to tell you step by step on what I'm doing. I only asked so I could take our daughter out, as it's very rare we do with my anxiety with my friends." This turned into a major argument, where we both said horrible things to each other, and I refused to open the door when he arrived, as I was very angry and didn't think. He then tells me I'm a cheat and a liar. All I do is lie. I choose to have my anxiety. I'm choosing to not work. I've been milking it all for weeks. I'm a slag and making our daughter suffer because I'm so selfish, and told me to do everyone a favors and myself. Like I said I was going to do. I felt very angry at this point and asked a friend to help me drop her off at his, to which I handed our daughter over and haven't had her back since, leaving him with the responsibility of her whilst he works, and I don't. I don't know if it's definitely all my fault, to which I feel it is. And not having our daughter has done me mentally more damage than anything. I don't know how to move forward from this anymore. I love him so much and wanted a family unit for our daughter, and I miss her so much, but I don't feel I can be a good mom anymore either. For context, I have our daughter Monday nights through till Saturday nights/Sunday mornings. He has her Saturday nights/Sunday mornings till Monday nights. And he is currently blocked on everything we are talking via my brother AITA. And can someone give me any advice, please? OP is an AH, but she made poor decisions under emotional and mental strain, and part of her decision was because of her partner's abusive and dismissive behavior. Instead of OP's husband is an AH, and I would rate him 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets nothing. What do the MacReddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to MacReddit for a daily dose. Bye bye. See you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.